everybody, and welcome to another episode of I Hate Your Taste in Movies. This is a movie podcast where we make our friends watch movies that we love and then have them slowly destroy us. My name is Jackie.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Austin.
And this week we watched Jen's pick called Battle Royale.
Yeah.
I was like, time for applause. Jen, why don't you tell us what Battle Royale means to you?
Okay, sure. So I love this movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. I was trying to think about it when I was, preparing for this podcast, and this is going to sound like a very hyperbolic statement, but I was like, it changed my life. Not necessarily my life, but it definitely changed the way that I approach movies, and I'm a movie fan. So to give a little backstory, this movie came out in the year 2000. It's a Japanese film, and it wasn't released in North America, but it kind of got a cult following. People had heard about it. There was a couple theaters in like LA and New York and eventually Toronto that would do special screenings. People were seeing it. And I think Quentin Tarantino called it one of his favorite movies. So it sort of had this underground kind of buzz. And this is in the early to mid 2000s when kind of American remakes of Japanese horror films were really popular. So, teenage horror fan Jen is going to the movie theater every weekend and seeing some crappy American remake of a Japanese movie and hearing that the Japanese film was better. So I started kind of looking up, Japanese horror. Let me find the originals. And on every single list was the best horror movie, the best foreign film, the best Japanese movie that you haven't seen is Battle Royale. So I tracked it down, illegally downloaded, because like I said, it was not yet released in our part of the world, and I watched it, and it was like nothing I had ever seen before. It just completely blew my mind and was really a gateway for me to start looking outside of the box for movies where I didn't have to just see what was in theaters every weekend. I could do my own research. I could follow different film sites and directors and get opinions from outside the mainstream, if that makes sense. So basically, this movie is what turned me into a pretentious film nerd. So thank you, Battle Royale.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, also, damn you, Battle Royale, because now Jen's inflicting her taste in movies on all of us.
So, had either of you guys even heard of this film before I brought it up?
No.
I had, but only in the context of Hunger Games comparisons.
Okay. So, did you guys know what it was going to be about? Like, did you give a guess of the synopsis?
Yeah, I have a guess. I think I knew too much, I think. Okay. But I still gave a guess, so here it goes. I said, I know it's basically the Hunger Games, kind of Lord of the Flies-ish. Kids are on an island killing each other until there's only one left. And then I said, it's going to be bloody. That was my synopsis.
You weren't wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mine, I think I had never really heard of it. And then I think last week when we were talking or something, and Jackie mentioned something offhand about it being like the Hunger Games. And so that was kind of the only clue that I had going into it. Yeah, so Jackie, it's all Jackie's fault.
God damn it.
It's okay. So yeah, I said the Japanese version of the Hunger Games where shit gets real, people get real murdery. And then I said maybe it's a combo of the Hunger Games and the Purge. So that was, nice. I basically just used my American movie standards to try to guess this.
Okay, yeah, so you guys weren't too far off. That's pretty accurate. So I can give the real synopsis for anyone who doesn't know. So basically, Battle Royale, like I said, came out in 2000. I believe it's set around that time, but in a dystopian version of Japan with a totalitarian government. The economy has fallen, people can't find work, teenagers are rebelling, and so the government has decided in order to quell the uprising from the youth, they're going to enact something called the Battle Royale Act, where every year they select one grade 9 class and throw them on an island with a bunch of weapons, and they have to fight each other to the death until there is one victor who then comes back to society. And as you see at the beginning of the film, they're kind of bombarded with press and glory and all this kind of stuff. So we're following one class on the island as they're thrown into the situation, how they react, who's ready to kill, who wants to fight to survive, and who wants to try to escape and beat the game.
I have to say that when they showed last year's victor in the beginning, I was confused, and I thought this was showing the victor of Class B, essentially. Like, I thought it was the end of the movie. Yeah. So I was like, oh, well, this girl wins, so just watch for that girl. And then I spent the first 20 minutes trying to identify which of those girls was that girl with the stuffed toy. then I clued in.
Yeah, I completely misinterpreted the whole movie basically because I thought that the girl from the beginning was the main girl, Noriko, is that her name? So I just didn't make the connect. Like I just completely misinterpreted the movie and then felt like a complete moron because I was like, okay, well we know she wins. That'll be really interesting. She seems very sweet, so we'll see how she like turns a little dark and like manages to win. And then, so yeah, I felt very dumb, but.
But I was like, I know she has braces, so find someone with braces.
Oh, I missed
And there
that.
was
Yeah.
nobody with braces.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
But I also
yeah.
don't understand the whole premise because, sorry if we're just jumping right into this,
No,
but
let's do it.
how is this supposed to quell a youth rebellion when none of these youths knew that this existed?
So that's actually something that I did think about too, because like the opening of the film starts where everyone, all the press are chasing after this girl who's the winner. And then when this class is selected, their teacher tells them, "We've told your parents that this is happening." So it's clear that this happens across Japan, but this class didn't know about it. So I'm not sure if it's just supposed to be, it's an entry point for us as the viewers to have it explained to us through this video and the class doesn't know what's happening, or if it's supposed to say that this class, because they're skipping class all the time and they don't care about anything, if they're just like stupid, not paying attention.
I guess, but then you'd think that the government would realize this isn't a good way to make the youths respect their elders because it's obviously not hitting the target audience.
But then also, maybe it is hitting the target audience because maybe the good kids are the ones that are paying attention and getting scared, and they're selectively picking off bad kids to do this.
That was the kind of
interesting.
that was the gist that I got, that this class was like pretty notorious and maybe not the most, I don't know, in tune with what was going on in the world, so they were the ones that were picked.
I guess I'm looking at it through the lens of how connected we all are now. I'm like, how would you miss this? There's no way, if it was out and like widely known, there's no way that you could miss that it was happening. And it's so sensational and violent and brutal. Like, wouldn't these kids have to have come across the information somehow? But I'm willing to just accept that somehow this class doesn't know that this is happening. But it just seems like a very backwards concept to me. I was hoping for something more clear.
Yeah, like I do think society is all supposed to know about it, so I don't think it's that it's being kept intentionally from kids or anything like that, because like you said, then it wouldn't really be effective. I think this class, maybe they're just too self-involved to pay attention to what's happening in the world.
I guess, but like, so they're not going to class, but they're still existing in the world. They have to pass by newspapers or TVs or something.
Yeah, I was going to say they're also existing in a pretty bleak world where there's a lot that's kind of poorly going on in Japan. So maybe they're not realizing that this one specific thing is different from anything else. You know what I mean? Like they're living in a dystopia, basically. And I mean, right now, so are we. And there's a lot going on. And I'm sure there's news stories we're missing. I
don't know how you could miss something so huge like this. But I'm willing to accept it.
There might also be a level of apathy towards it. Like, oh, this won't happen to us. Or maybe they didn't think it was real or something. I don't know. There's a couple different ways, I guess, we could look at it.
I guess. Anyway, it's not really an important point. It just stuck out to me that clearly this has been happening for years. And it was inconceivable to me that they just didn't know. But dystopian future, normal rules don't apply. So, okay, they don't know. Now they know. For real.
Yeah. No, and I do agree. I did notice that this time when I was rewatching it, where I'm like, how come none of them have heard of this? But then I think it's honestly just to get that amazing scene with the video explaining it to them, which I love, by the way.
I did make a note of that. I loved the training video.
Yeah, she's so excited. She's like, if you're lucky, you'll get a good weapon. Ooh, this person's so lucky. They got an axe.
Yeah, she's a psycho.
I love it.
But it's perfect. It's exactly very Hunger Gamesy, where it's people really just buy this for entertainment. They're so divorced from the reality of what it is. They're just happy and excited. It's disgusting. The first thing that I noticed was the warning that came up saying how violent this was and what happened at the time, modern day Japan, when people saw it in the theater and how horrifying it was and the age groups that they had to exclude. And I got so nervous. I was like, this is gonna be so bad.
One of my first notes was that Jenn wins because I'm gonna actually have to watch this movie because I'm gonna have to read the subtitles. So
yes.
The subtitles were a whole other thing. I don't know if you guys had the same thing, but they didn't match. the dubbing, the English dubbing and the subtitles didn't match very well.
Oh.
Oh,
Ew. Okay,
interesting.
first of all, your problem was having English dubbing on. Don't do that. Dubbing's always bad. Subtitles only.
Okay, well, I
Oh,
didn't really have the choice. It was just what I rented
Okay.
on Google Play. Maybe I could have played with the settings. I didn't really do it,
No,
but
it's fine. It's not your fault. That's Google's fault.
thank you. But I always liked subtitles, but I have to say it distracted me a little because I was just very aware of the differences. But I also maybe it helped a little bit because obviously a Japanese to English translation is going to miss something.
hmm
So if you take both the dubbing and the subtitle, you can parse together what they're actually trying to say.
interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Watched a version that was in Japanese, so it just had the subtitles, but which is why I was disappointed that I couldn't close my eyes.
I win.
I think Jen, you'd be really proud of me. I only closed my eyes once.
Which part?
The part was when what is it, Nobu, the first guy, gets his neck exploded.
Oh, yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, because he's running. It's pretty vicious, this scene. If you just take it out of the context of the movie and you're already a little horrified, but it was so brutal to see this little child running around begging people to help him, and they're pushing him away, and then his neck explodes. It's just like, whoosh, that's a lot.
Yeah, so that's actually one thing, as you mentioned, how it's like a little child running around. One thing I actually really like about this movie is that they're teenagers and they actually all look and act like teenagers. It's not that thing where it's like a 30-year-old actor playing a 14-year-old kid.
hmm
So it kind of just gives that sense of realism a bit more that I really enjoy.
I like that too, except for obviously the two transfer students are
Or like
older because they're
35, yeah.
from, yeah, they're technically supposed to be just a couple years. Like Kawada's like 3 years older, even though he does look 35.
Yeah.
But also, who is the psychotic girl? Mitsuko?
Mitsuko, she's my favorite.
Yeah, she does not look like the same group of like age group as these guys. I was like, she's obviously 25. Am I the only one who thought that?
Well, now I'm curious. I'm gonna look it up.
Oh yeah, let's
Oh
check
yes.
out Mitsuko's age.
But yeah, I'm guessing that she was at least 4 years older than everybody else in the cast. She just seemed way more mature. Maybe it's because she was slaughtering them, but I don't know.
I'm also trying to look it up. She was born in 81.
So 19.
Okay, yeah. That about tracks if everyone else was maybe around like 15 or 16. She's a few years older.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just needed somebody with a little bit more either acting experience or gravitas to take on that role.
She was savage. So
She's
I-
my
Awesome, for sure.
absolute favorite. I love Mitsuko, so I want to get your opinions on this. Were you guys like rooting for her? Did you kind of want her to win? Did you hate her? Did you want her to get killed off?
Well, I knew she wasn't going to win because somebody like that can't really be the winner. There's always going to be a moral character who wins by not playing the game or whatever. So I didn't expect her to win. She comes on the scene and she's cold-blooded,
Mhm.
and she mentions how she's just killed a bunch of other people. So I immediately knew that she was going to be the psycho killer character that eventually gets it, but she was definitely enjoyable to watch. Like there's something amazing about how cold-blooded she was and how you don't necessarily expect the girl to be that character, to be one of the like robot slaughterhouses, but I really liked it. Everything she did was cool and she didn't seem phased. She never got emotional. I was just like, you're hardcore.
She was. Yeah, I same with me. I didn't expect that she was going to make it because again, I misinterpreted this whole movie and so I knew Noriko was going to be the last one, or I assumed she was based off the first scene. So I knew that she wasn't going to ultimately win. But yeah, when she came on, like my note for her is, ooh, this chick is scary. She wants to kill. But I also liked that they did a little bit of the background on each of them. You saw like the flashbacks of their life. So she clearly hasn't had a particularly good life.
And she's killed before.
Had she?
Yeah. Well, in her flashback, she killed the man who
Oh
was trying
yeah,
to assault her.
her abuser there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually interesting. So, Jackie, when you sent a screenshot of Google Play to make sure you had found the right version of Battle Royale, I saw that the description referred to her as hypersexual, which I thought was kind of strange because I don't necessarily think
What?
she's hypersexual in the movie. And so I kind of did a bit of research. So, Battle Royale is based on a novel. And then there's also a manga series as well. The manga came out around the same time as the movie, but it goes a lot more in depth. And so apparently, a bit in the novel and more so in the manga, Mitsuko, they show her sort of seducing people to kill them, and she's a lot more sexual. So I think that
Oh.
description is based maybe on that original take of the character, where she's not really like that in this film. There's kind of an implication, maybe. There's a scene where you see her with like two guys and she's getting dressed afterwards. So like that might be a nod to that maybe she was seducing them to get their guard down so she could kill them, but she's definitely not hypersexual.
No,
Yeah, I
interesting.
avoided reading the description because I didn't want to know what the movie was about. But I saw none of that. I didn't even get the part where she was putting her clothes on. I never saw anything sexual at all, which was kind of great because she's beautiful, and that would have just cheapened her whole killer vibe in my mind if she was using her sexuality to kill people.
Yeah, I honestly, like, when I seen the movie before, when that scene where there's two men that she's killed and she's kind of putting her jacket and her whatever backpack back on to leave, I always just assumed she was changing because there was blood on those clothes.
Right?
But
Yeah.
after reading that, in the other versions of the story, she's a bit more of a, like, it also goes further to details about her abuse and things like that. So I think it's sort of more supposed to be she's really messed up in sexual ways, which I'm not a huge fan of. So I prefer this version of Mitsuko.
Right? Like, you just want to see a woman survive, not because she's damaged or sexually abused, but just because she's gonna live because she's a hardcore badass.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I liked her, but she's freaking cold, man. That's all.
The other girl that I liked was, oh shoot, what was her character's name? Shigusa? Is that her last name?
Yeah, Chigusa.
The runner.
That was one of my favorite parts of the movie, and I wanted to ask you guys about it after I realized that you guys didn't listen to the dubbed version.
Mm-hmm.
But when she's about to die in the dubbed version, she goes, "Oh God, can I manage to tell him one last thing?" And then she goes, "You look really cool, Hiroki." And then I died laughing. That's your big emotional moment. You look really cool.
Yeah, she does tell him that he looks really cool, but I don't know if she says the part before where she's like, "Can I say one last thing before I die?"
Yeah. But that was a translation actually of the black screen with the Japanese characters.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Yeah, it sounds like something got lost in translation.
It just made me laugh because she's like, "I've always loved you. You look really cool." But I guess, I mean, maybe that's what a teenager would say. They don't know how to say real things. So they just said, "You look cool." But also, didn't he just say that he didn't love her?
Yeah, so I think they were really good friends because he was the one that was helping her run. But then he had a crush on the other girl that he was trying to see. So I think maybe she had like an unrequited crush on him.
Gotcha. See, I do find that I might have to watch this movie again because I am so bad with Japanese names and understanding necessarily who they're talking about at all these times. And there was 42 people to start, and to me that was like a lot to try and keep straight. And I think I would have had more of an emotional reaction to some of these deaths if I could have understood which backstory actually applied to them.
Names, especially sometimes with like Japanese movies, is hard because it's names that you're not familiar with, so you don't always pick up on it. So I definitely get that, where like the first time through you're like, wait, was that guy? They were talking about finding someone. Is that who they were talking about? You kind of don't necessarily have the names matched up with the person right away.
And they flipped between last and first name, which obviously can happen in a movie or real life, but it just made it that another level of trying to figure out exactly who they were talking about.
Yeah, I think that's a cultural thing. I got the sense that they introduced them as first name or last name first. I don't know if that's actually real.
Yeah, and then also maybe some of them are nicknames or like familiar terms like brother or whatever, and it is how people actually talk, but it's confusing as someone who's never really heard Japanese ever.
Yeah.
But I did find it really helpful that they had the kind of cut scene, the black or the number 4, blah, 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 dead. And they kind of checked them off. That was very helpful.
Yeah, whenever I realized that there were like, what was it, 41 kids, 42 kids or something?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, there's going to be so much death in this. And then the one thing that I felt bad for being a little bit happy about it, but I was like, okay, there's like a few scenes where you knock out like 5 or 6 at once. I'm like, okay, we're moving along.
I thought that too. I was like, okay, good. This is like, I thought they were going to have one at a time bloody torture deaths. That was terrifying in concept, but I got to agree with Austin. I was like, okay, it's good clip. Like it really gets into it fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even understand. Like when they're on the bus, I was like, oh, we're still in the establishing who they are. Not necessarily this is where it starts. I still thought it was background information, and then it just like drugged everybody, and then it happens, and I was like, okay, so this is really moving along.
Yeah, you do get into it pretty quickly. And what I like too is that kind of right away you see how the different students are reacting. So like everyone approaches it differently of whether or not they're going to stick with their friends or run away. So as soon as they get their bag and they leave, like immediately right outside, there's someone with a crossbow shooting at people, being like, "I don't want to die."
Ugh, that's so fucked up. The whole concept, like, I think I'm a little bit divorced from it because of things like the Hunger Games, but this just seemed, I guess, more within reach of reality. Like, they are just normal kids. They're all in these uniforms and they're getting these bags whipped at them and then they have to go run outside.
Yeah.
I don't know. It hit a little different.
Yeah, and one thing I always like about this that the Hunger Games doesn't do is that these kids all know each other. Like they're a class. There's not like a stranger where if you have to kill them, it doesn't mean anything to you. It's like these are your friends. It's the girl you have a crush on. It's the person who bullied you. Like there's so much more history with each, like in between each of them, and you can see how that affects how they respond to the game. And I just think that's so like you said, kind of fucked up that it's like these normal kids that have to deal with it. Like
For sure. And a lot of them, just a disproportionate number, it seemed, had to end up killing the one that they had a crush on,
yeah.
which is awful. I mean, whew. I wonder how a kid around this age would react watching this movie. I wonder if it would just destroy their mind.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what's kind of funny too when you were mentioning before at the beginning, where it's like this movie is banned and it's so hard to watch. It says like people under 15 couldn't watch it, but the characters are like under 15, so I'm like, that's not fair.
I wonder if you could explain one other thing to me, Jen, and that is the teacher man.
Yes, Kitano.
How are we supposed to believe his transition from teacher to torture master?
So at the beginning, when you see him as the teacher, you see like the whole class is skipped out. No one's bothered to come except for Noriko, which is why he kind of likes her. And then Nobu like stabs him.
Yeah, weirdly.
And then he drops out and he's no longer their teacher. So I guess what you're supposed to get, and that he kind of says later, is just that like he hates this, he hates society, his life sucks. So he's like, you want to have all these kids kill each other? Cool, I'm joining because I hate them. They made my life miserable.
So did he join and then he selected their class? I just don't know how he rose through the ranks of this Battle Royale group.
No, so I get what you're saying. I don't think he's a member of like the military. I think they need a teacher to oversee the class.
Yeah, my interpretation was that like he was their teacher, so he was doing it.
Yeah, but what about the guy they killed? He was their actual teacher.
Yeah, the teacher who was there on the bus didn't want them to do it, and that's why they killed him. But because Kitano was like, yes, you can take this class, he just got to oversee it.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I took it.
That makes sense. I just don't understand, I guess, again, with wanting to understand the logic, I just don't understand how did they approach him?
I think so, because I think they, like the government who runs the act, selects the class. So I think they selected Class B, and they were like, these kids? And their new teacher was like, no, not my kids. And Kitano was like, yeah, fuck these kids.
Okay, so they found him and they were like, you used to be their teacher. Help us torture them.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, that makes sense.
I was a little confused how we were supposed to view him towards the end, especially in context to Noriko. I mean, I guess he kind of liked her more than the other students, but I wasn't quite sure what they were trying to do with. Like, there's that moment where he comes out and brings her the umbrella. Then Noriko has that dream with them, like, eating, like, popsicles or something.
I thought when he came out with the umbrella, she was hallucinating, honestly. Because they're on an island. How did he get exactly where she was in order to give her an umbrella? But, okay, it's one of those things that you're just like, sure, whatever.
Yeah, so I think their relationship is just that he likes her. Like, she was the only quote-unquote good kid, so he's kind of rooting for her to win. And wants to try to take care of her so that he kind of like sees her as like, this is the only hope we have, so I'll just, root for her and kind of be connected to her in a way. But I don't think it's supposed to be necessarily that they have like a real connection or friendship or anything like that.
Okay.
I think it's just that he likes her. He's like, this is my one good student. She actually showed up for class when everyone else just fucked off.
Right.
Yeah, and then he kind of sees her as a substitute daughter because his own daughter sucks.
Yeah.
But she doesn't necessarily return that. It's just him putting this on her.
Yeah.
I wanted to know what you guys thought about the two transfer students, which is also hilarious that they kept calling them transfer students. I'm like, they're not part of this class. They're not students. They're murderers also on the island. Like, you don't need to call them part of the class.
Yeah, like when you first are in that scene where all the kids are there and they're learning that this battle royale is about to happen and those two guys at the back, I'm like, oh, okay, they brought in a ringer. They brought in some people to make sure everyone's gonna die. Like that's what this
Yes.
is. But
Yeah, I
they're all
totally
just like,
called them ringers too.
yeah,
So did I.
perfect. But the other students are like, oh, these transfer students of ours. And I'm like, he's
I know, they're
30
just
years old. He
they
doesn't
just
go to your
go along with it.
school. Also, the more evil of the two, Kiriyami, I wrote down he looks like Edward Cullen. Did any of you think that?
You're not wrong.
He's
No,
like
I did not think that, but I thought that his
broody
hair
with
was
his hair
insane.
sticking right up. Like I was like, you look like you're from Twilight. This is amazing.
I super appreciated what they did with his hair because it was so easy to pick him out. Like, if you ever saw a flash of red hair, you're like, okay, shit's gonna get real right now. He's gonna slaughter a bunch of people. It was just like a nice identifier. It's sometimes, too, the fact that they were all in the uniform
Yeah.
made it a little confusing. Like, you would only see their back or something, and I'm just like, who is this? So I love a good visual cue that this is the bad guy.
It's funny
Maybe
that
I'm
you
just
say
really
that.
stupid.
Because I always feel that in like military movies where everyone's in uniform. I'm like, I can't
Yup.
tell who's who. But that's all you
Same.
watch, Jackie. So how can you
I
tell
know.
them apart?
I always can.
No, I never can. So I feel you, Jen.
Yeah, I'm always just like, okay, white guy's dead. Oh wait, there was another white guy. Which one was that?
Yep.
It was the whiter one. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I guess the key is repetitive watching because I know every character in Battle Los Angeles by name, but on my first go through of Battle Royale, I was just like, whoa, what? Also, both movies have the word battle in the title, so are they that dissimilar? I don't know.
I mean, one's better than the other.
Yeah, Battle Los Angeles, right? I totally get
No. No.
it.
I surprisingly didn't have that hard of a time keeping track of people in this movie, which maybe it was the subtitles, like I was able to like see the name and attach it to the person, but other than the fact that I just completely missed the whole like main character thing.
What's funny to me about that, Austin, is that you thinking the little girl at the beginning is Noriko and that she's going to be the winner. Noriko's
Mhm.
like the most useless character.
I
How
know.
on earth did she even survive, let alone could she have won?
Well, that was my question, and I was like, okay, we're gonna see her like devolve basically into this like murderer, and it'll be interesting. And then at one point I was like, oh, I wonder if she'll, because she seems like well liked and everyone, no one has any issues with her really. And so I was like, okay, maybe she'll get through this without killing anyone, and that'll be an interesting twist. But no.
Yeah, she really does suck. Like, at first, I didn't really. She was kind of a bland character until she's sitting there with Kawada and it's raining and she just bolts. She's like, I'm gonna go find him. And she just runs aimlessly into the woods. And I was like, what are you doing? This guy has saved your life repeatedly. And instead, you're gonna run out into danger woods with like people with guns. That's your plan. So I kind of think she deserved to die.
Yeah.
In that scene, I realized how bad I was at predicting this movie because I think Quada mentioned that they were close to a danger zone. So I was like, oh, Quada's gonna go out and try to find her, and then he's gonna die, and then she's gonna be fucked. But no, because again, I just assumed the two guys around her were gonna be dying anytime soon.
Sorry, I had the opposite thought. I was like, oh, great, this moron's gonna run right into a danger zone and her head's gonna explode.
Oh
And
no,
honestly,
I knew
they
she
didn't
was
really
gonna make
use
it.
the danger zone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
They give you like the points every day of where to avoid, but you would really think they would have had someone maybe like right at the edge and they're running and it's beeping or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I never really cued into it until right now, but no one got exploded by a danger zone. That's so strange. It is nice because it has to keep them moving and will bring them into contact with each other.
Yeah, so that no one could just like hide out in one spot the whole 3 days or anything. Like they have to keep moving and possibly cross paths and find new hideouts or not so hideouts.
Yeah.
It's a good strategy on the government's part to like get these kids to kill each other.
Right? Smart government. The one thing that I kept thinking was how annoying it would be to be in your school uniform like that, like an uncomfortable school uniform for 3 days. The poor girls had to wear like skirts with tulle underneath and then carry these super awkward bags. Like every shot of them walking, they're like weighed down by 3 unwieldy sacks. And I'm just like, they couldn't have given them a backpack? That's all.
Sorry, I have nothing to say really. I've said nothing this whole time. I apologize.
Well, let's talk about deaths. Austin, let's talk about some deaths then.
Yeah, okay.
What was your guys' favorite death scene?
That's hard.
I kind of liked
very excitedly tell you mine. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I kind of liked the scene where I'm just looking at my notes to see if I had the name, but I don't think I do. But where she Or like the group of girls where one of them
The
accidentally
lighthouse,
poisons
right?
each other. Yeah, in the lighthouse.
Yes.
I really
Yeah.
liked that scene. And then like the girl
That's fucked up.
who actually poisoned them got or survived and then just committed suicide. But I thought that was interesting. I also did laugh that her little bottle was just labeled poison. Appreciated the clarity of that. And I was also waiting for poison. Like, for some reason, I knew there was going to be poison involved. So I was waiting for it. So I was happy to see it. I think I thought, again, because I had no idea what the hell was going on at the beginning, I was like, oh, those cookies are poisoned for sure. That's why they all passed out on the bus.
I did, now that you're speaking of that, I really did like that moment where the woman who randomly was standing at the front of the bus just turns around and they both have gas masks on.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Because when they first opened that part of them all being passed out, I thought they were just asleep. I'm like, oh, it's late at night. They're sleeping on the bus. And then they turn around and you're like, oh shit, it's going down. They've been drugged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I liked that a lot. I was like, this is where it starts to get intimidating and eerie. But in terms of favorite death, I was going to go for Lighthouse too, but the weirdest one was when, I can't remember the girl's name, but she was the runner. And the guy basically is like, I'm going to rape you. And she starts stabbing him in the crotch. I was like, nice. That guy gets what he deserved.
Yeah,
So I was kind of happy
scene.
about that.
With the Chigusa, I wrote down what the subtitle said for me. I'm not sure if it said the same thing for you, Jackie, but when she pulls out the knife on him, she says, "Come at me, every inch of me will resist you." And I was like, oh, she's such a fucking badass.
I wrote that down too. Also, the line that she says right before that, where it's something like, I think you should be worried about your life instead of that flaccid thing in your pants.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, I was rooting for her, for sure.
Have either of you guys seen any of the Kill Bill movies?
No, but I know she's in them.
Yeah, she's Go-Go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, like Quentin Tarantino said Battle Royale was like one of his favorite movies, and he handpicked her from this to be in Kill Bill.
Well, that was one of my trivia pieces, but fine.
Oh, I'm sorry, Austin. I just think
no,
it's
cool.
Okay.
I didn't have much, so please.
I wonder if that's why I kind of expected someone to have a mace or whatever that ball chain.
Oh, yeah.
Post thing, but I was expecting one of those to make an appearance.
That would have been a cool weapon. Although maybe a little heavy, a little wieldy.
Yeah. Although it was very strange. Obviously in the video she says some of you will get good weapons, some of you won't. But I thought everyone would have a weapon. Like you can't call a pot lid a bad weapon. It's not even in the category of weapon.
Yeah, so I think basically some people got like weapons and other people got like defense tools. So like he got a pot lid to be like a shield. Noriko got binoculars, and then that other student had like a tracking device that showed him where all the collars were.
Mm-hmm.
So those are more like for them to try to hide or escape or monitor people. But then other people just got like fucking Uzis. So it was really uneven.
Seriously. But I mean, that's how it's got to be, right? You can't have everyone have an Uzi or else it would be no fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we do think that the government was partly doing this for entertainment, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So we're assuming that this was broadcast.
I don't actually know because you don't really see cameras monitoring them while they're doing it. But then there's definitely the media frenzy for the victor at the end. So I don't know if the whole thing is televised or if it's just the winner, which is televised.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they do like a summary greatest hits type of episode after.
Yeah, and it's probably easier for like propaganda purposes to not televise the whole thing because then you could just be like, this girl like, you know, defended herself and took down all these people and isn't she a hero? Whereas if you were actually watching a bunch of 14-year-olds shoot each other to death, you would be like, wow, this is bleak.
Yeah, it's bleak. Jen, was your favorite death the lighthouse?
The lighthouse scene is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. I love it so much. I love that it's that group of girls who are all trying to just survive, but there's too much like paranoia and things at stake that they can't really trust each other. So then, you know, one girl poisons accidentally and then they all just start shooting at each other, and then the one who's like, as she's dying, she's like, you idiots, we all could have survived if we just worked together. And I don't know, I love that scene. I think it's so good. So good.
It was good. And it was kind of a nice way to, like, overall they were showing how the whole group breaks down. But it was more specific to these friends and how they all let paranoia destroy their brains and they killed each other.
Yeah, I liked how they all turned on each other. I also wrote down, I possibly like this scene because it's taking out a lot of people at once. So there's also an element of that. No, but I liked that the actual murderer survived as well.
I like that this movie got Austin rooting for bloodbaths. She's like, yeah, take them all out at once.
Take them all!
You know what? One thing about the bloodbaths always bothered me is that It seemed like you could shoot somebody 100 times and they would still stand up.
Or the people just had like the worst aim.
I do think that's probably accurate though, because I don't know if any of these kids had ever held a gun before.
Yeah, fair. I also noticed that some of the actors were pretty bad at being a corpse. Like, there was a lot of moving.
Yeah, oh man, everyone, when they die, they would just be like, talk, 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 head drop. And
Yes.
it's like,
Yeah.
I am now dead. So, maybe the acting wasn't necessarily Oscar caliber, but I didn't find that it took away anything.
No, I enjoyed it.
No, and I think there's a bit of a camp factor too, where it's like, we're not trying to be like a super dramatic thing. We're just giving you what you want, you know?
Yeah. What did you think of the kill with being decapitated and then the grenade in the mouth being launched into the cabin?
It was awesome.
Yeah, great times.
I don't know why he didn't just throw a grenade in the window. I mean, it seems like a lot more effort to jam a grenade in the head and then throw it through the window. And also, I think the head was still wearing a hat, which I was like, that hat would have fallen off. But
I think it's more just for the drama of it all. Like, that was done by Kiriyama, right? And he's the one who kind of just signed up, who volunteered to come do this because he wanted to murder kids and have fun. So I think he's like, you know what I haven't done yet is shove a grenade in someone's mouth and throw their head into a building. I'm going to try that.
Now, I just had a thought. This is probably a weird thought, but did he sign up to kill people, or was he a repeat winner who came back because he wanted to kill people? Like, was this all supposed to be his first effort?
One of them was Kawada was a returning winner, which I
wondered if both of them were.
Oh, I assume he just volunteered for it. But I guess, they don't really specify.
In my mind, he was a return winner who was like, oh, I had fun that time. I want to do it again.
Oh, I assumed it was his first time.
So they don't really specify. I think they just say, like, he's the only person who's ever signed up for this, but I don't know if that means that this was his first time doing it, or if he had signed up and because he had won before, or he had done it and really liked it and was like, bring me back every year. I want to keep doing this. We don't really know his motivations a lot. We just know that he loves killing and he's going to do a lot of it and he's having a great time.
But it's like, how did he get to be so good at killing if he had never done this before?
I mean, maybe he'd never done Battle Royale before, but he killed before.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I think maybe also the way that he was so casual about it. Obviously, it was meant to be super intimidating, but I was like, he just knows what's up. He's done this before. He knows the score. He gets to take his bag and casually walk. And is he the one who came back and was like, this isn't my bag, I want that bag?
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe he knew something about the bags or the weapons inside by weight or something. I don't know. All this to say, he's hella scary. But also, I kind of liked him. He doesn't have any pretensions about what he is.
Yeah, he's just a monster who looks like Edward Cullen. So, what did you think of after the explosion where he turns around and he's like blinded and just shooting in the air? I thought I loved that.
Yeah, it was a cool
I liked
shot.
it except for the fact that he hit somebody. I was like, he wouldn't have been able to hit anyone. He's blind. Shooting a gun, I don't think it's as easy as, I think most people who are new to, well, maybe he has a lot of experience with an Uzi. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think it's harder to hit a target than you might imagine.
But he also usually did the whole sweep of an area. I feel like he hit a lot of people, but he also missed a lot.
And he had a million bullets. He never ran out of bullets.
No one had to reload, or there was one person that ran out of bullets, I think, at one point. Everyone else, no issues.
Yeah, well, I guess a lot of people, too, were, picking up weapons from people that they'd killed, so they had backup.
Yeah.
So, I think at the beginning, Kiriyama took out, a group of, 6 kids who all had guns. So he had a lot of, weapons on him.
Yeah. I was just I think there was only one automatic weapon. Is that... Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't really remember. I just remember that scene at the beginning where the kids kind of grab him and are like, who are you? Tell us about this. A lot of them had guns, and he just took them all out. And I assume took all their guns. So I'm not sure if he was using the same gun for the rest of the games or not, if he was switching between different ones.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask another question, something that didn't really make sense to me. Mm-hmm. You know the hacker guy?
Yes.
So first of all, watching him type in Japanese characters was fascinating. I wish I could read Japanese writing. But I don't understand why, what was the benefit? I know at the end that their collars were off. So was that the hacker who did that? Because Kitsano seemed to imply that was Kawada who had done that months earlier.
Yeah, so Kawada had done that months earlier. What the hackers had done was they were the ones that cut the power and turned the power off. And then they had that bomb. So they were trying to turn the power off so in those moments they couldn't be tracked. and then bring the bomb to where it was set up and then bomb the government. Obviously,
Right.
that didn't end up happening. They didn't end up getting their bomb anywhere and kind of all got killed instead.
Yeah, and why did the last hacker, or well, the hacker, why did he he sacrificed himself to set the bomb off for no benefit?
Yeah, he was just trying to kill Kiriyama at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess he kind of figured at this point the plane was off. They wouldn't be able to get the bomb anywhere. So he was like, well, I might as well take someone out with me.
He had a really good death, too. Like, shot him in the necklace.
Yeah.
He deserved a bad death. He's a bad dude. And then I don't even understand the end of the movie either. All the army guys leave, and Kitsano's doing calisthenics in the yard alone.
Mm-hmm.
What was his point in staying behind?
He was staying behind because he figured that he had already figured out that Kawada had been the one to turn off the trackers. So I think he was staying to confront him, to be like, what have you done? You didn't really win.
Oh, and then probably kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely was a little bit confused at the end. I felt like it was kind of like twist after twist for me. Or maybe I just missed something along the way and so I didn't pick up on something. But because I totally thought that Kawada had betrayed them by killing Noriko and I forget Shuya, but obviously that was a ploy. But I definitely was. I don't know. Maybe I was supposed to fall for it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believed it too. And then
Okay.
I started to suspect something when he was sitting there with them talking. I'm like, this can't be the end. There's got to be something that's going to happen. And I was happy when they came in, even though they're both kind of useless. Kawada basically just carried their asses around the entire time.
I mean, Shuya tried to do things. He was trying to find different people and get things together and make things happen. He was just really dragged down by Noriko, I think.
He also had a pot lid.
Yes.
Yeah. But he also had the opportunity to steal a bunch of weapons. People were dying around him left, right, and center. But yeah, I mean, I think I wanted Kawada to win, and I think maybe you're supposed to be rooting for him. Obviously, you're supposed to be rooting for the innocents, and Kawada is definitely not innocent, but he's so capable that I thought there was a good shot that he would win. And I would have been happy with that. I actually don't like that he died.
Yeah, I think I would have been fine with the three of them all surviving and not having him kind of just die on the boat back to safety. I'm like, if he could have stayed alive a couple more hours, they could have got him to a hospital.
Yeah, and then the two basic incompetents on the run in the dystopian cities, I'm like, they're not going to last very long without Kawada. They can't really do anything by themselves.
So there is a sequel, which I have not watched. I don't believe in sequels or remakes a lot of the time because they're usually terrible, and I've heard the sequel is terrible. But out of curiosity, I did look up the plot, and apparently it follows Shuya has sort of created a terrorist organization trying to take down the government. So he's still alive and working somehow and doing things. And then the new Battle Royale is that they're taking a group of students and putting them on the island where Shuya and his group is hanging out. And they're now, instead of killing each other, the students have to act as a military op and go in and kill Shuya.
Oh, weird.
Okay.
But anyway, that's Battle Royale 2. I've heard it's not very good.
So Shuya is supposed to kill the entire class, basically? It's one guy against a class instead of everybody for themselves?
I think the whole class is trying to kill him, but he wants to not kill them. I think he'll probably end up having to, but he wants to be no, join my cause. We're going to take down the government that's forcing us to do these things.
Gotcha. I mean, it has potential, but I'm on board with you. Sequels are just never as good.
Yeah.
One thing I did like was all the classical music. It opens
yes.
right off the bat with the Verdi Requiem, the Dies Irae. I've played that piece. It's amazing. And then there's the Radetzky March. There's the Blue Danube. There's Bach Third Suite. I was very happy because I was able to identify all of those. And I think it's kind of cool. There's probably more that I missed, but those were the 4 that I picked up on. And I think it's an interesting juxtaposition, I guess, against the insane violence in this movie to be played against classical music the whole time. Even with the other music that was just the score of the movie, it was in the kind of classical style. So I think it was kind of a cool hodgepodge.
Yeah, I found the choir music haunting. Sorry.
No, I was going to ask you that, Austin. I made a note where I was like, are these actual classical pieces? Does she know all of these? Is some of this the score? So I guess you said it's kind of a mix. So some of it was original score and some of it was classical pieces?
I'm thinking some of it was the score. I know all the pieces that they played over... Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure if they actually did play it. I got the sense that they were playing some of it over the loudspeaker. Was that right? when they were like
Yes.
doing announcements and stuff.
Yeah.
So all of those were actual pieces. I think there was the Radetzky March in there and the Blue Danube Waltz and the Bach Suite. I think those were all played over loudspeakers. And then the Verdi Requiem was like right at the beginning, like over the opening credits.
Oh yeah, I always like that, where it really starts with like a big emphasis.
Yes, and there's a bunch of like really intense bass drum hits. I played that part. Not to brag, but I did play that at Avery Fisher Hall in the Lincoln Center with my school orchestra. No big deal.
Oh wow, Austin played the Battle Royale soundtrack. I'm so impressed.
It did add a very creepy vibe, the choir music and the classical music. I remember when they showed the class picture in the beginning. I'm sure you know the piece of music they were playing alongside, but I found that to be very unsettling. The music and them showing the class picture, and I'm like, all of these people are dead. That was almost more upsetting to me than the rest of the entire movie. Something so understatedly creepy gets to me.
Yeah.
Also, always flashing back to them being so happy at the basketball game.
Oh
That was pretty
yeah.
pretty creepy. Although I couldn't figure out why one guy was wearing a toque. I'm like, you're running around. It's hot. Take your hat off.
Just to be cool, maybe? Like, is wearing a toque while playing basketball like a cool thing to do?
I don't know what's cool, period. But I was also like, if he was wearing the toque in the movie, that would be another, you could track, oh, he's the basketball star. I recognize him. Again, that's just me not being able to follow a movie. I will say it's the first Japanese movie I've ever seen.
Ever?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm very much mainstream movie person.
Oh.
And also, I hate horror movies. Those are the ones that get the most buzz, I guess, on our side of the pond.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm trying to think. I think I've seen Ju-on, the original Grudge.
But not Ringu?
Fuck no, not Ringu.
I'm definitely going to make you watch it.
I knew you were going to say that. Oh, no.
There's actually a Japanese movie I want to make you guys watch at some point, but it's very intense, and I'm not sure how far into this we'll have to be before you guys will be able to handle it.
What's that one?
It is called Audition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard of this too.
Yeah, it's intense.
It's on like a list of movies. It's like the worst, most horrible movies you'll ever watch.
I mean, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's just a little... I know you guys don't do well with like a lot of gore and a lot of violence, which is hard for me because those are apparently all the things I love. But we'll get to it one day.
In terms of violence, this was a very violent movie, but it wasn't violence that disturbed me. I think it was because, like you said earlier, there's a camp aspect to it, and the blood is like very clearly not blood. It looks very, very light red, which is just not the color of blood. So I was able to watch this violence without being really thinking it was real or being affected by it. So this kind of violence I'm okay with. It is the close-up, very realistic violence that I do not like.
Yeah, I can't really pinpoint what it is I like or don't like in a movie because I feel like I was very neutral this whole time. I didn't have any issues. I think I maybe covered my eyes a little bit with right at the beginning when his neck blew up there. But other than that, like nothing really affected me. But yeah, the Japanese horror, I was very nervous when I realized this was a Japanese quote unquote horror movie. I don't know if this constitutes a horror movie, but I associate that with specifically Ringu, which I have actively avoided. So not looking forward to that, Jen.
Totally going to make you watch it. We're going to have a whole Japanese horror marathon. I'm so excited to bring you guys into this world. It's going to be great.
You're going to drag me kicking and screaming because I don't want to. Don't make me. Well, I mean, do we think it's high-low time?
I was just going to bring up the Hunger Games of it all. So obviously there's a bit of similarities, but I was just wondering, as you guys have all read or watched the Hunger Games before having seen Battle Royale, where I kind of did it the other way around, did you think they were really similar, kind of similar? Like, how did you take that?
I feel like Hunger Games is a direct ripoff of this movie. There's very little difference to me. Dystopian government. It's not as clear that it's for entertainment like the Hunger Games is. Purely, it seems like it's more for entertainment than for quelling, even though it's both. And it seemed exactly the same. Everyone has weapons provided and food provided, and they throw them in an arena, and there's danger zones that's similar to the traps the Capitol puts in the Hunger Games. And yeah, a boy and girl survive. It seemed identical to me.
Yeah, I don't have a very strong memory of the Hunger. I've read them all and I've seen them all, but they really didn't stick with me in any real capacity. But I think also Hunger Games, I think, is only rated like PG-13 or something. So a lot of the deaths in the Hunger Games are a little bit more like symbolic. But I felt like the deaths in Battle Royale were a little bit, well, they were a lot more visceral and a little bit less meaningful, I guess, in some ways, because there were just so many. And the Hunger Games was a little watered down, obviously, to get that PG-13 rating.
Yeah, the violence was way less. There was barely any blood.
Yeah.
And I guess I thought it was maybe better in terms of storytelling to have fewer people on the island or in the arena, because in the Hunger Games it's 24 and here it's 42. And I think maybe with the fewer characters you were able to invest in them more, understand a little bit more of their backstory. Whereas, like Austin said earlier, there were some scenes where they just got rid of like 6 random strangers in one go. But again, I mean, they have to be slightly different. You can't just make the exact same movie. But because I've seen The Hunger Games multiple times and I know the books fairly well, I thought they were. I was kind of mad. I'm like, oh, great, this series that I like, which is The Hunger Games, is a complete ripoff of someone else's work.
Yeah, it's so funny because so I had obviously seen Battle Royale first, and then before the Hunger Games movie came out and they were still just a book series, a friend of mine was reading them, starts recommending them to me all excited, and I was like, oh, that's Battle Royale. That's cool. They made books, like American books based on Battle Royale. I'll read those. So I like read them because I love this movie, and like I think they obviously take the same concept and do something a little different with it. But then I read that the author, Suzanne Collins, claims that she had never heard of Battle Royale and she came up with her idea all on her own and never even knew what it was until after the books were already out and the movie was out. And that's when people compared it and all that stuff. And I was kind of like, I don't necessarily buy that. I could believe that maybe she hadn't seen it before she started writing it. You know what I mean? But I'm like, if you typed into Google, like, kids forced to kill each other until one survives, like, you would have found Battle Royale. So basically, you're saying, like, you didn't do any research on your book and neither did your publishing company?
Yeah, you think maybe someone would have known. When
Yeah,
did the Hunger Games, when did the books come out?
2008.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for
She
sure.
had to know.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of unfortunate that by the time Battle Royale was released in North America, it probably got less excitement because people probably just saw it as, oh, it's a Hunger Games ripoff, not realizing that it's like it came out like 12 years before.
So actually, one
Mhm.
thing that I'm very happy about is apparently studios were planning on doing an American remake of Battle Royale, and then the Hunger Games came out, and they were like, "Well, now we can't do it because everyone will think it's a Hunger Games knockoff." So I was like,
Yeah.
"Yes, no shitty remake. I'm excited about that. Thank you, Hunger Games." But one thing I think Battle Royale did differently from Hunger Games that I actually didn't really notice until I was watching it again this time with more of a critical eye is sort of how they treat heroism. So in the Hunger Games, obviously the way to be the hero of the game is to only kill bad people, and then you're like the lone amazing survivor, like Katniss. Whereas
Yeah.
in this one, they kind of don't have a character like that. They kind of take it either as the moral high ground is to kill yourself so that you don't have to kill anyone, or to like try to survive and escape. And I just thought that was a really different, like, cultural way to look at it, where there's the two kids at the beginning who throw themselves off the cliff and are like, the only way to win this is to not kill anyone. Whereas, there's no equivalent of that really in the Hunger Games. Like, even when she and Peeta are going to do the suicide, it's like a fake out because she doesn't actually want to die. She wants to be the victor, and she's already killed all the quote unquote bad people. So it's okay that she killed them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's just a
I
very
guess,
American way of looking at it that I never really picked up on until this.
That's
but I
interesting.
think they were going to kill themselves if the Capitol didn't stop them. Like, I don't think they were bluffing entirely.
If I remember correctly from the books, which has been a long time since I've read them, so maybe I'm wrong, I thought Katniss was doing it with the knowledge that they would stop her because they need a victor, but Peeta was going along with it genuinely because she didn't tell him that.
Well, I think she was, yeah, I definitely think you're right, but I also think she was like, if they don't stop me, then I'm just going to kill myself.
Yes, yeah, true.
Like, it's this or death, like winning or death.
Yes.
Which makes sense, but I find that Katniss was the same as Shuya, basically. She killed people when she was forced into it, not necessarily good people or bad people, but if she was in a situation to defend herself or die, she would defend herself, which is what Shuya did with, like, the guy with the axe.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that was really funny. He gets an axe in the head, and Shuya goes, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yep," and then he dies. But he seemed to me to be a Katniss character. Doesn't want to, but will save his life. Is not going to meekly lay down and let himself be killed.
But I think that's also an interesting comparison between the two, and we kind of touched on it briefly before, but because Battle Royale is like a group of kids who all have known each other presumably for many years and have different levels of relationships with them, and so there is more history to that, like rather than in the Hunger Games where they're mostly strangers. So there's less of an emotional connection to people. Maybe it's easier to kind of switch on the I have to kill or be killed situation rather than if you're in there with a
Yeah,
bunch of your friends.
definitely.
Yeah.
The fact that they know each other so well is a different level of twisted to the whole thing.
Yeah, and also the fact that if we're assuming that the kids in Battle Royale don't know that Battle Royale is a thing, whereas with the Hunger Games we know that they do. It's this like annual tradition, and they've all been to the the ceremonies and stuff before. What's it called?
The reaping, yeah.
The reaping, yeah.
But they also they have time to prepare, right? Like Katniss is brought to like a training facility before they're dropped in.
Yeah.
And some of them have been training their whole lives.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's definitely a different element too, where these kids honestly just like you said, Jackie, they're on a field trip and then they get gassed and just wake up and are like, wait, what's happening? So it's a
Except
lot.
that some of them have, I mean, you could argue that Mitsuko's been training.
Yeah.
You know, like her life has led her to the point where she is a vicious killing machine.
Yeah.
But you're right. They don't have any formal training. It's just about your instincts coming to the surface. But yeah, I'm sad that the Hunger Games, like, I'm more sad that now you said that she distinctly said, oh, I've never heard of this. This was all my own idea. Because then that's just a lie. I feel like, come on. Even I know that this was like a very different concept, a very different movie. It had never been done before. So it's just pretty bald-faced lying of you to be like, oh, I've never heard of it. It's just me being brilliant. I was just looking to see if I had anything else to say.
Okay.
All of my notes are just trying to predict what's going to happen and being wrong. So I don't know.
I will say I have a note that says they all run so spastically. A lot of flailing about.
I mean, I'd be running pretty spastically in that situation, so I can relate.
This is a good question. How would you guys react if we were thrown into this battle royale situation? Like, what would your strategy be?
I would jump off a cliff.
Yeah.
I was surprised that no one broke down in hysterical crying when they were first introduced to the idea. They all seemed mostly composed. They were just
It's
like,
true.
okay, I'll grab my cooler and get a bag whipped at my face really hard by an army guy and then run. But like I thought there'd be mass panic and screaming, which would be my reaction. And then my strategy would be literally to hide. Grab a bag, run as far and as fast as I can, and be in bushes constantly. And then just try and deal with problems as they arise.
Yeah, I feel like my big problem would be not being smart enough with the map when they're calling the danger zones. I'd be like, oh, it's that section. And then I'd walk the wrong way for 10 minutes. So
Into a danger zone.
yeah, I'd be like wandering through the danger zone. Like, what's that beeping? Oh, it's my neck.
The jumping off the cliff one is a very noble thing to do. I respect it. But I'm afraid of heights. Like, I think I couldn't make myself die that way. It's too scary. I'd need like a nice
I guess
overdose.
depending on, depending on what weapon was in my bag, but I don't.
Binocular yourself to death.
No, I mean I'd want to take Jackie's technique, right, of the like hiding, but I think I'd be too scared. And then you're gonna probably die anyway. I probably would not survive. So
I'd probably be the girl who got like shot with the crossbow right away after leaving the building. Like you don't even make it anywhere. You're just like, all right, I guess I have to find somewhere to hide. And oh fuck,
I'm crossbowed.
that does remind me of the time that, oh gosh, this was so long ago, but I went on a band trip with like my elementary school band to Halifax, and we played laser tag, and it was like a 2-story laser tag room or course, I guess, and you had to, if you got shot, your power would drain, and so you have to have like your home base, and you'd have to go to your home base and like recharge. There was like a little sensor or something that you have to stand in front of, and you would recharge. But there was like a window on the second floor right above the opposite team's recharging base, and so I just camped out at that window and just shot people as they were recharging.
You are a sniper.
So you're vicious. You would survive Battle Royale.
Yeah, you're the Mitsuko of us. Uh-oh.
Oh, nice.
What about those two girls who are like, hey guys, let's be friends? Did you guys? I thought that was a trap.
Yeah, me too. I thought they were tricking everyone.
No, they're just stupid.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping. I was like, these girls seem really stupid. So if they were vicious, calculating monsters, I would have been pretty impressed. But ooh, and that was maybe the grossest death to me when Robert Pattinson put the megaphone to the live girl and then shot her stomach apart.
Ooh, yeah.
Oof,
Yeah, so
that
that
was pretty
everyone
vicious.
could hear her like dying, basically. That was dark.
Mm-hmm. Super dark.
Anyway, high points and low points.
Oh boy. It was hard for me to choose a high point and a low point because there wasn't that much variation in what was happening.
Mhm.
It's all people murdering each other.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pulling a Jackie. I'm not prepared for this question today.
My high point, it's such a stupid small thing, but when he started typing in Japanese, I was like, how do people type in Japanese? How do the letters and the characters work? Because the way individual sounds and meaning come together to make an image that means a word, I've never understood how they could use a keyboard to make that. So I loved watching him type. So I don't know why, but that is my high point. My low point was probably Mitsuko's death. I thought she deserved better than that, where she totally like kills some girl and she drops a line like "No one's coming to save you," and then she just gets shot by Robert Pattinson. I was like, well, it's a disservice for her. And then her last line is like, I just didn't want to be a loser anymore. And I get that she was supposed to be an outcast loser somehow, but I'm like, this girl would never be an outcast loser. She's like a beautiful, tall, badass. She would have been the mean girl in school, which would have made more sense to me. But then she says, oh, I didn't want to be a loser. And I don't know. I thought she would have a better ending than that. Anyway, that's my low point, which is to say that it was hard to choose any kind of low point. I felt kind of the same about everything during that movie.
Yeah, same with me. I think my high point is going to be the music. I just really liked that. Well, the music in conjunction with the action that was happening on screen. I just think that was a really cool. I love when movies do that, when you don't necessarily associate the type of music that's playing with the violence or the horror or whatever's happening on screen. I think it's a cool juxtaposition, and it worked for me. It built tension in a way, and then the fact that I was able to recognize the pieces also was helpful for me. But I think that was a really cool element. The music was really great. As far as low points, like I said, I've just felt like I was very neutral this whole movie. Nothing like really jumped out as amazing. Nothing really jumped out as being terrible. I was just okay with the whole thing. I think my low point, this is so lame. I'm just going to say all the gunshots. It's loud and I don't like it.
I'm sorry for laughing at you.
And I can't tell what's happening. This is why I hate action movies. I hate gunfights.
Oh,
Yep,
man.
that's definitely going to make you hate action movies.
my note literally says low point, all the gunfights. Too bad, sad face. Or too loud,
Because
sad
that is what
face.
I love. I'm like, more guns.
So my high points, other than the whole movie, I would say the lighthouse scene is my favorite scene. I like wait for it every time. As soon as I see it, I'm like, yes, we're here. But other than that, I think just the characters of Mitsuko and Chigusa, especially, I just think they're so like cool and badass. I just really like seeing those kind of like badass women, even though they sadly don't survive. And then agreed with Jackie, my low point is that Mitsuko doesn't survive. Like, I'm rooting for her. I want her to win the thing. I know she's vicious and evil or whatever, but like, I still just want her to survive. I want her to kill them all. So that's my
I
low
agree.
point.
It's fair.
Just as a side note, I wanted to just say that I don't understand how all those army guys in trucks were going to get off this island. That's all. I'm like, where are they driving to? They've made it clear that there's no escaping off this island, so it's not like there's a boat dock full of boats. Otherwise, that would have been my plan. Go get a boat, escape.
Or maybe the army has to go to the dock and wait for the boat, and then the trucks get on the boat.
Does Battle Royale always take place on the same island?
I believe it's the
interesting.
same island.
Because they could just have like a base there or something.
Maybe. Well,
Maybe.
although they did say in the beginning that they've evacuated everyone off the island, which implies to me that people live there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Interesting.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, because there are kind of like house-like structures that they're hiding in at different points.
And this happens yearly. Am I right?
So
Like,
I think maybe those places were abandoned like when they started the Battle Royale like 5 years ago or whatever.
Right, like did they evacuate them this year or did they evacuate them like 10 years ago?
I think they
whatever?
evacuated them like however many years ago because the
Yeah.
places look kind of run down.
Definitely. And the medications are expired and all that.
Yeah. Also, how annoying would it be if someone like the government comes to you and they're like, you can't live in your house anymore because we have to have some teenagers kill each other here?
Yeah, goodbye. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, they probably just killed everybody who lived on the island.
True. That is
That's
also
true.
very true.
Whew.
Should I do some trivia?
Yeah, let's trivia it up. What do you got for us, Austin?
Do it. Hit us.
Not a whole heck of a lot, to be totally honest with you. I'm just gonna see what I got here. None of the cast had any stunt doubles, so that's including the leads. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of pretty painful looking falls. That's very impressive.
So props to that bunch of like 15 to 19-year-olds. Contrary to popular belief, this film, I guess people thought it was banned in the United States. That doesn't really seem to be the case. It sounds like there was the director refused to license the movie for North American distributors, and then he also had his licensing fee his licensing fee was extremely high and unusually high for this kind of movie. So smaller independent distributors couldn't afford it, and then larger distributors just refused to pay for it. And then especially after, well, I guess this came out after Columbine, but just still in that sort of aftermath of Columbine, there wasn't a whole lot of desire to bring a movie like this over to the States.
That's a very good point. That was 99, right? So
Yeah.
too soon.
Yeah, exactly. That's really the only ones that I found kind of interesting. A lot of them compare it to the manga or to the books. Some references to different manga appear in the movie. Nothing really jumped out at me. I don't know, Jen, you seem like you probably have a better grasp on some fascinating facts about this. Oh wait, I think I do have.
Oh?
Hold on. Okay, here we go. It's time for pew 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 pew. Guess numbers.
Oh shit! I'm never prepared for this part.
All right, let's do it.
It's you can logic this one out. What's the body count?
Okay.
41 plus Katana.
2 students.
40. Yeah. And then 2 survive.
2 survive.
So that's
and
40.
Katana
Katana
dies.
dies.
Their teacher at the beginning dies.
Yeah, so that's 42. We don't count Keiko, do we? Because that would be 43, although it's a flashback.
But then also, Mitsuko pushes that guy down the stairs in the flashback.
Oh, yeah, and the dad, so we're at 44. Because he killed himself. I mean, that's a death, but it's not a body count. So 44 is my guess, I suppose.
Yeah, so this says it's 48, and then in brackets it says 15 from flashbacks, which seems very high, unless the 15 are included in that 48, which I think is the case. 15 of the 48 are from flashbacks, I'm gonna say.
But 15 from flashbacks still sounds high.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the bodies, like when they're showing Keiko and Kawada, there's bodies everywhere.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, true. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, that must be it.
So, good job.
All right, that was pretty good.
Logic.
Pretty close.
So you probably have some more interesting facts there. Sorry to disappoint on the trivia today.
No, I mean, I don't know how
cool.
interesting this is, but I found a couple of things when I was researching the film. So first of all, I wanted to know like what was going on in Japan at the time, because I was kind of curious if this sort of dystopian totalitarian government was in response to the actual government. And I found kind of like 2 things that tie that together. So first of all, I do not know much about history, especially financial history, so I had no idea about this. But from the decade of the early 90s to the year 2000, in Japan is known as the lost decade because their economy was so bad. They had a huge market crash in like 91 and it just didn't recover until the early 2000s. And so people were out of jobs, there was wage stagnation, and so that kind of plays into the movie a bit at the beginning where Shuya's dad can't get a job and ends up killing himself, and it's supposed to be like the finances of the government are so bad that it turned into this bad situation. Sorry, I'm not saying this super clearly because, again, I don't fully understand finance, but somehow it had been like a recession and a depression in real life that was sort of mimicked in the movie, but obviously in the movie it's making it way worse. Yeah, did not know that.
Interesting.
And then the other historical factor is that the director, Kinji Fukasaku, he's actually much older. He was in his 70s when he made this movie, and it was his last movie before he died. But when he was a teenager, I think it said he was 15, during World War II, he was working in a munitions factory in Japan, and at one point it was bombed. And so the teenagers, to try to like survive, had to use the bodies of their peers as like shields. And then once it was over, they had to like pull out their peers' bodies and bury them. And that's really dark, but he said that sort of made him not trust the government and not trust adults. So then when this script kind of came around, even though he was a 70-year-old man at this point, he really connected with it with that level where he's like, the government is fucking over the youth because that's what happened to me. And that's why I'm going to do Battle Royale. So I thought that was interesting. So that's a little bit of Japanese history.
Very cool.
That is terrifying.
Yeah, like it's super fucked.
I did actually read that earlier today. I was trying to read some articles about the movie. And yeah, that came up. And I mean, it makes sense. It also kind of plays into the role of friends and at the end, like the limitations of friendship and all that.
But yeah,
This is
real
creepier
dark.
than the actual movie. The fact that he basically lived it. Like, not to say that he killed anyone, but who knows what really happened when a bomb starts dropping.
Yeah, and like if you had to push someone out of the way to try to survive, you know?
Yeah, we'd probably all do it.
Really dark. And then I think that kind of explains why the film is so kind of dark and nihilistic, is that he kind of experienced that and was like, everything sucks and we're all gonna die. Here's the movie version.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that also maybe plays into why like Mitsuko got such a shitty death scene, or the right, like it's frivolous. Jackie, got any quotes for us?
Quotes. Well, I don't have a lot of quotes, and I think I already said them all. But the quotes I have was, "Are you okay?" to the guy with the axe sticking out of his face. And I think it's Mitsuko says it, but she goes, "Why not kill? Everyone has their issues." And I was like, okay, that's one way to look at it. And then, of course, the "you look really cool" Hiroki dying words, which honestly made me laugh out loud. And he was like, "You're cool too." Death. And then I just didn't want to be a loser anymore, which I just did not like. I get that she is a grade 9 student, and yeah, that probably would have seemed like her biggest problem, but it was a weak line for her to go out on. I wanted her to be more of a badass. That's all I got.
One quote that I wrote down that really made me laugh was after the morning announcements and there was like 3 people dead, the teacher Kitano goes, "You're slacking. I'm so disappointed in you." And I just thought that was really funny.
It also is very poignant when she's like, "We could have survived," like the lighthouse girl, like we had a chance. Whatever she says implies we had a chance to make it if we had stayed together, and this is what we get. That's it.
Totally.
Not a lot of quotes, but this was to me more of a visual movie than a auditory movie.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it.
What about other movies that came out that year, Jen?
2000 was not a super strong year for movies. Some hits, some not so hits. I was going through what came out that year, and actually I think Google has this new feature when you kind of search movies in a year. They kind of do like recommended for you. So they have movies that they think I would like from the year 2000 first. So I'm going to start with those because Google, your algorithm has learned things. They suggest Final Destination, X-Men, and American Psycho. All good picks.
Okay,
I have seen all of those movies many times. So
I've seen 2 of the 3.
Which one haven't you seen?
I haven't seen X-Men.
That's funny because I haven't seen American Psycho.
Ooh, list.
I don't like Freddie Snellis.
The movie's better than the book, by the way, for American Psycho.
Wow, that never happens.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Bale's great at acting like a psycho, so I bet it would be good.
Yeah, also, sorry, this is just a Bret Easton Ellis sidebar. The book is super misogynistic, and the movie is directed by a woman who understands satire, so it balances out.
That's interesting. Noted.
All right, other 2000s movies include Castaway, Billy Elliot, Charlie's Angels, Almost Famous, and then a movie that we've talked about but not released as an episode or anything, Center Stage.
I've seen every one of those movies.
I was just thinking, I feel like a traitor to my genre of choice by never having seen Billy Elliot.
It's very lovable. It's wholesome.
I think I've seen parts of it. But I haven't seen it all the way through. And of course, Center Stage is iconic for me and Jackie.
Amazing.
Is it?
Beautiful. Perfection.
Should we get down to rating?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go first for rating just to get this over with. 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. You guys can go now.
Wow.
All right, well, that was easy. I think for me, for enjoyment, I'm going to give it like a 5.5. Like I'll say a 6. I liked it more than I didn't like it. I was just very neutral about the whole thing, as I said before. Like, it was fine. It was a good movie. I'm glad I watched it. And then for quality, yeah, I'll say like 8 or 9.
Nice. It is hard to do a rating for this for the same reason. To me, it was the exact same tone the entire time. So it was hard to be invested a little bit. It was hard to be shocked. I already knew that everyone was going to get murdered in increasingly violent and inventive ways. So there wasn't a lot that was unexpected. So enjoyment, I will give it a 5. I just felt very nothing. I will say it was definitely, I thought it would be creepier. I liked it more, I think, because it was sort of campy and silly sometimes, and the special effects were so bad. Like the death, the blood was always just seemed so fake to me. I think that made me able to enjoy it more because I hate horror movies and gore, and I find it really hard to watch. So the fact that I could watch this movie with my eyes open, good. But the rest of the movie was just didn't have very much of an impact. For quality, I don't know about the budget.
Oh, shoot! I slacked! Oh, God!
But I was going to say it seemed like it was a fairly low budget movie, and I think they did a good job with what they had. So for quality, I'll give it a 6.
I'm waiting for Austin to give the budget before I jump in again.
The budget was $4.5 million.
That's a low
Ooh.
budget.
I thought it was lower for sure.
Yeah. Box office was estimated $30.6 million
Nice.
in 10 countries.
I like when a movie I don't hate makes a good profit. That's good.
Apparently, it got an R15 plus rating, which is very rarely used in Japan. And it was the highest grossing Japanese language film for 6 weeks after its initial release.
Fully expecting you both to really hate this movie. I think I even said when we were picking it, I was like, you're gonna hate this. So I was kind of surprised that you guys didn't hate it, but also that you were so neutral on it. Like, that was a very shocking reaction to me. Like, I fully expected you both to be like, this is stupid. Why did we watch it? So to hear that you came away and were just like, meh. I'm like, what? Meh? Like, that's so, what? It's just very surprised. I'm surprised by how you two reacted to this.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's odd. I think by the same token, I was surprised to hear how much this movie means to you. I can definitely appreciate that. And I definitely understand the idea of, like, you were able to kind of fall into this further world of exploration, and it kind of opened new movie opportunities to you, and so I totally get that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can appreciate that. And so, but yeah, it was surprising to me to hear how important this movie is to you. It's a good movie. I don't dislike it. I think I expected it to be scarier coming from you.
No, so I think once we continue doing this, we're going to learn more about each other's taste. But I think you guys always consider horror to just mean what's scary to you. Whereas for me, it's always like a much broader thing where it's like, sometimes it's scary, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's gory, sometimes it's suspenseful, sometimes it's just campy and fun. So, like, it could be anything. And maybe throw in, like, a mixed bag at you.
Okay.
It's funny you say that, Jen, because I have a note here that says I need to redefine horror for myself because I didn't think this was a horror movie. To me, a horror movie has to be creepier or suspenseful. There has to be an undercurrent of feeling uncomfortable. Whereas this to me was just an action movie. It's a bunch of people shooting each other and killing each other with very little emotional investment. And that might be just how I interpret the movie, because again, I have that different cultural vibe where I'm not familiar with how Japanese movies work. But this to me wasn't horror. I didn't feel the things I expected to feel when I watched it.
Yeah, I think you could definitely make an argument for this being more of an action movie. I consider it in the horror genre, and I think there are a lot, especially in a post-Battle Royale world, there's a lot of horror movies that kind of have this same vibe where it's like a free-for-all, everyone just is killing each other. So, like, there's one that came out this year called The Hunt that I really liked. You know, Ready or Not has a similar vibe. Even The Purge, which Austin mentioned earlier, there's kind of that, like, melee style, everyone's just out and being violent and murdering. And I still consider all of those horror movies, even though they're not necessarily creepy or scary. So I think it's really just, I don't know, it's harder to define, I think.
I think it's interesting that Jackie and I are really on the same page with this, because neither of us like horror movies, but with this one, it seems like we're both very like, yeah, okay. Like, just very unemotional about it, which is unusual, I think. Also unusual for me and Jackie to be on the same page.
True. Although you guys were both on the same page for that Pitch Perfect fiasco, which I did not enjoy, so I think you two are the issue. I've got great taste.
Yeah, isn't it the one who's not part of the group, the one who has the bad taste?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm just not a follower. I march through the drummer.
That's enough out of you.
I will say also, though, that Jen is the only one now who hasn't had a movie where someone absolutely despised it, so...
Oh, it's coming.
It's coming. But it hasn't happened yet.
Maybe this is my new challenge. I should try to pick one that I think you guys will hate.
No, I don't think
Okay,
so.
I think that would be very easy.
I thought you were going to hate this one, but you were just kind of neutral on it, which, again, surprising. But now I'm going to have to dig deep and find something really messed up for you guys to hate with your whole hearts.
Yeah, I'm afraid of this already. I'm intimidated.
So do we think this movie calls for a friendometer check-in? How are we feeling?
We can check in.
Okay.
Okay, my friendometer towards you both has not changed. It's still high and happy. No negative feelings. I thought I would be mad at Jenn, but I'm not.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think I was expecting this movie to be a lot worse. I was expecting there to be, well, I don't know. I don't think I was expecting us to fight, but I think that, still friends.
Yeah, I'll agree. Still friends. I mean, you guys did not have the reaction I was expecting, so I thought you were going to be a lot harder on this one, and you weren't, so I have no reason to be mad at you. So, still friends.
Excellent.
Yay! For now.
Until next time.
Speaking of next time.
Nice.
Ooh.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Segue.
Jackie, what are we looking at next time?
Next time, we will be watching a movie that I am very confident we will all love. Speed.
Yes.
In big flashing letters. Speed. Best movie. Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock. What is not to love?
I think it'll be good. I'm excited. I can't believe I haven't seen it. So it'll be, as per usual, I am the one who has not seen this movie. So it'll be good. So thank you so much for listening. And as we said, next time we're going to be talking about Speed, a classic. And you can follow us on Instagram at HateYourTastePod and on Twitter at I Hate Your Taste. And thanks so much for listening. Bye.